over here looking at All the Small Things by Blink-182. All around a pretty simple song, really just 3 chords, but there might be some challenges with endurance of the right hand, just being able to maintain pace. You are given breaks within the song, but really just dealing with power chords here, and I'll show you a variation or two. You can decide where you want to place the power chords. I've seen a couple layouts or sheet music that showed it in a couple different ways, and I mean that's really always an option, right? You can you'll see that certain songs people will play maybe a C5 there versus a C5 there. Sometimes it could be personal preference. Other times it might be necessary to do that. So let's jump right in. We're seeing basically all of our chords in the intro, right? So we start out, let's just go ahead and go through the chords real quick, just my volume. So we're going to be on C5, that's string 5, fret 3, string 4, fret 5, and string 3, fret 5, power chord. And then we're just going to hop across the strings over here to 6, 5, 4, G5, and then slide down 2 frets, F5, and then we're also going to have an F5 up here. So it's string 5, fret 8, string 4, fret 10, string 3, fret 10. So one variation, it's really not a variation, but I'll call it that. It's just the fingering I'm using for these power chords. For certain portions, I'm going to use 3 strings, 3 fingers, and for other portions, I'm going to use 2 strings, 2 fingers, and I will explain that as we get there. All right, so in the intro, it starts off with a quick little G5 to F5. All right, so you just drop that real quick. And then you're going to jump to C5 here. Sorry. And we're going to jump all the way up to frets 8 and 10 for F5. And then G5. And then we're going to have one strum of G5 in this measure, and then it's going to go to a muted rake. And then F5. So that's one measure of C5 following the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and F and 2 and 3 and 4 and G and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and is that ending part. So that last measure, again, one strum of G and 2 and 3 and 4 and all right, so all I'm doing there is just relaxing my fingers, letting the strings basically just lift me up because I'm not putting any pressure. I'm lightly resting my fingers on the strings, so I'm not making contact with the fretboard. Everything's muted. So I don't have to, you can mute with the right hand, you can mute with the left hand, you can do it with both, but it depends on the situation. So here, I'm just going to use my left hand for this type of muting because it's what's easiest, right? And I need my right hand to be free to strike the strings there, so I just relax with no pressure. I'm just touching the strings, and I'm going to get that muted sound that I want. So let's go through that slowly. A little bit faster. So I think always important to count, always important to think about the beat, the rhythm that you're playing. What's nice here is we're basically just keeping pace with the eighth notes, just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and all downstrokes. And really the only spot that you have to be a little careful with that is when you get to the G5, because you're strumming straight through that measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and then the rakes follow, and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? So that's going to be something to listen carefully for. All right, so that brings us into the verse. For the verse, I'm going to use 2 fingers, 2 strings. for the power chords. So for C5, I'm eliminating string 3 or the G string, and for G5 and F5, I'm eliminating string 4 or the D string. Reason for that is that we're going to be palm muting everything here. So typically when you're palm muting, you're catching 2, maybe 3 strings max. And so just makes it easier to move the hand, a little bit, not too much of a difference there, but I'm not really going to be catching that third string where my pinky's touching anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. So typically when there's palm muting on power chords, I'm going to use the 2-string version. So just a quick note on the palm muting. If you find yourself tiring out here because it's moving at a fast pace, you can consider changing kind of your wrist angle, arm angle, right? So if you're positioned a little bit in a downward direction here, I feel like that gives me the ability to maintain that motion and keep that endurance up. Whereas if I find myself kind of tilting down here, maybe a little kink in the wrist there, I'm more parallel with the strings, that feels like more effort. Little things like that in terms of technique and being able to, being successful with it or not being successful with it, little things like that make a big difference. So that's something to think about in terms of palm muting there, because it's maintaining this chord progression on the verse for like 16 measures. So anyways, the order of those chords is going to be C5, G5, F5, G5. Okay, so we're going to go through that 4 times. I'm just going to speed it up little by little as I go because it's just repetitive. It's the same thing over and over. So C5, G5, F5, G5, C5, G5, F5, G5, C5, G5, F, G. And after the 4th time, big C5 chord is just going to be ringing out, say it ain't so, I will not go. It's that portion. It's ringing out for 4 bars. So you just strum it once, let it sustain, and then we're getting into the little na-na-na chorus. So I'm going to use 3 fingers for these power chords as well. And that is going to be the same chords, but it's going to be 2 measures of C, 1 of G, 1 of F, and no palm mute. So one more time. And after that, it's going to jump back into the intro. So let me just put that together from the chorus to the intro. And it's going to go through that twice. That's basically the majority of the song. You could definitely use just that to get through the tune. There's one other portion where it's, I guess you would call it just the interlude, where you're just sustaining chords, so you're not strumming more than once per chord. It's the same chord progression as the chorus, where it's going to be, it's actually a little different. It's going to be 2 measures on C5, 1 on F5, 1 on G5. But you're just going to let it ring out, right? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. C 2 3 4 1 2 3 and F 2 3 4 G 2 3 4. So there is an alternative that you can play over those long held chords, which is going to be string 4 fret 5 and string 3 fret 5, palm muted. And then it switches to string 3 fret 4 and string 4 fret 5. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 So not a whole lot going on there, but it's something different to play other than just the long held power chords. But if you just want to stick with power chords, that's totally fine. And then it's immediately going to jump back into the chorus. So all these little variations of C, C5, G5, and F5, right? That's the whole tune. 3 strings, 3 fingers, or 2 strings, 2 fingers. And there is one other piece of sheet music that I saw that was suggesting to play the F5 like that, which is string 4 fret 3, string 3 fret 5, and string 2 fret 6. So that's a power chord. You know, you still have F, C, F there, or up here, that's F, C, F. Same exact notes. You know, you do see this power chord from time to time. I'd say these are far more common, but if you don't want to shift all the way up or you have trouble with transitioning, you can just play it right here, right? So C, C, and F. So that would be a replacement just for when you're going to this F5 up at frets 8 and 10. That is pretty much it. There was one part in there that I talked about that I didn't play in the intro, but I played everything else, and you know, really it's just going to be listening to the song. It's repetitive for sure, so just listen to it. You'll be able to hear where that chord progression is moving based on just knowing the chords and matching it up. And you just memorize the sections, start pacing it together, and you're good to go. If you're having trouble with keeping that pace, the tempo that they've got at full speed, just slow it down and work your way up. But like I said, it's going to be important to make sure that you've got good setup with that right hand, so you're not getting not tiring out, you know, halfway through the song. But that's it. Let me know if you have any questions, guys. See you in the next video. Thanks.